talked about magic systems before on this channel, and in an attempt to give you a practical example of how you can go about creating magic, I'm doing some videos on how I went about creating one of mine. The previous video on this was about how valas, my priests and magicians, use runes to create charms and spells. This one is about their other option, if they don't like doing the runes. Again, just to be clear, this video is not meant as a way to tell you about my magic system as such, but rather about my process in creating the system, why I made the decisions I made, in the hopes that this will give you some inspiration when creating your own magic, and or help you if you're stuck in your world building. First though, I do have to give you some background on the magic in order for my reasoning to make any sense to you. So, a vala is, for lack of a better comparison, a priest in this world. All valas have magic. Sort of. When a vala is chosen by their deity, they're given a staff. It's made of the wood from the world tree, and at the top of it, it has a circle where the deity's name in the form of their own personal rune is sort of floating. I can't draw, but something like this. The moment they have their staff, they have a channel to their deity. With that, they can ask their deity for favors, say you want a dry well to fill up with water. If the deity grants the wish, the well fills up. That's the first step to vala magic, and as you can tell, it's not a sure thing. The deity might decide to not grant the wish. The second step to vala magic is when their staff accepts them. That's the terminology, and what happens is that basically the deity entrusts the vala with part of their power. When this happens, the circle on top of the staff starts to glow faintly. Most valas are accepted by their staff eventually, although it can happen at any time, from moments after they get their staff to years or even decades later, and for some it never happens. If and when it does though, the vala no longer has to go through their deity to perform magic. Anything they could have done through their deity before, they can now do on their own. Which makes it a more sure thing. If the well can be refilled, it will be. Why did I make this so complicated, with 2 steps to being a vala? The in-world reasons is that different deities choose their valas for different reasons. I don't know what reason each deity has, because that's not important, but I know that there are different philosophies between the deities. Some choose a specific person because they like that person already or trust them, or this person has already somehow proven to the deity that they would make a good vala. Others choose a random person because they just want another vala, but they don't know how this person will handle the position. Some do one of these things sometimes, another at other times, and it's just kind of chaotic, and no one can be entirely sure why a specific person was chosen. The behind-the-scenes reasons for this complexity they're plural. The first one I don't have a very deep or complex explanation for. It was just that I came up with a character who was a vala but whose staff hadn't accepted them yet, and they were confused and wondering why, which leads them to the place where this story sort of begins to find an answer to this question. I had no deeper thought behind that, and I could have changed the reason this character came to this place, but I liked the idea, and I liked it even better when I could contrast it to my protagonist, who finds her staff, and less than an hour later, her staff has accepted her, and she is just as confused as to why as this other character is to why not, so to speak. The next behind-the-scenes reason why I decided to go with this is that there is no official training program or anything that a vala has to go through, but I still wanted there to be some indication of who was an experienced vala and who was not. And this isn't a completely accurate indication. Like I said, my protagonist was not experienced when her staff accepted her, while the antagonist had years of experience as a practicing vala before his did. But I like the idea of a sort of hierarchy. But what can a vala actually do with their magic? I've said before that the deities in this world are not all powerful. Some are more powerful than others, some are more diverse in their skills than others. There might be a deity who can refill that well, and another one who can't. There might be a deity who can heal a broken leg, but not fix an ingrown nail. Another one might be able to do both, and cure cancer and the common cold, but they're useless when it comes to things like fertility. Basically, if you want help with a certain thing, you have to hope that the right vala comes along. And there are powers that a deity might have, but not grant their valas. This is usually things that would upset the balance of the universe too much. As I mentioned before, that would be very bad. Some examples of powers that no vala, as far as I or anyone else knows, has ever been granted would be the power to kill a large amount of living beings. Killing people with magic is possible, but not, say, an entire battlefield worth of soldier, or an entire forest, or a whole flock of birds. It's also the power to transmute things, turning lead into gold, or people into frogs, or things like that, and the power to resurrect dead things. The power to take control of dead bodies? Sure, but the power to bring back a spirit who has left this plane? No. Most deities wouldn't be able to grant anyone the power to do these things anyway, but even those that are powerful enough to do that, they don't tend to give these powers to their valas. I think my reasoning behind creating these limitations is fairly obvious. I don't want any one vala to become too powerful. If anyone had these kinds of powers, they would be too formidable. I will say that there is a certain sect of valas who belong to a certain deity who might have these kinds of powers. I'm leaving that open because I don't need to know. I only need to know that there are rumors that they can do absolutely anything, but they don't, and they don't confirm or deny. They're not a big deal in this story, they're just featured in passing in one single scene, I think, maybe mentioned once or twice after, but there's this air of mystery around them in-world, so I don't feel a need to define what they can or can't do. They can be a mystery to me too. But there are certain things, on the other hand, that pretty much any vala can do. It doesn't mean they like doing it, or that they're very good at it necessarily, but at least they have the abilities. This involves purifications and blessings. Purification is done if something bad has happened in a place or around a person that has drawn malevolent spirits to them. A vala can perform a purification ritual which will repel the malevolent spirits, basically. Blessings is a way to bring their deity's attention to a place or an individual. It doesn't necessarily do much, but there's a belief that it'll bring good luck, if it's the right deity. Another thing is guiding spirits. One of the major abilities that all valas have is a closeness to the spirit world. They use this mainly in two ways. One is for funerals, when they help the spirit of the deceased to let go of this plane and go into the spirit world. And another is to force spirits who haven't left and who have grown vengeful or malevolent to leave for the spirit world. The last thing you can assume that all valas can do is finding things. This is related to the vala's connection to the spirit world, because they can sense spirits, they can sense the spirits of lost things or individuals, and either go to them or guide them back where they belong. So those are some common things that all valas can do, although, like I said, there is no guarantee that a specific vala will be good at all or even any of those things. As for why I decided that all valas can do those things, mostly I wanted there to be a common base. Like I said earlier, each deity can give their valas different powers depending on what powers the deity has. I really like that, but I still wanted there to be some things that people could assume that a vala can do. I picked purifications and blessings because that seemed like things that wouldn't be tied to a specific deity. I'm not sure why, but that's how it felt. Guiding spirits is a pretty major part of the story. The whole plot revolves around my characters dealing with rogue spirits that are appearing all over the world, and I decided that I wanted all valas to be able to help with that, at least to a certain level. When it comes to finding things, that was just something that came to me and that made sense in light of the lore of the world and the other abilities of the vala. Finding spirits that need guidance seems like a pretty useful thing when that's part of their job, and since in this world each item and person has its own spirit, it makes sense to me that valas can sense these spirits whether they're still attached to something on this plane or not. One thing that I decided not to include in every vala's abilities was healing. Originally, I put that on the list, but the more I thought about it, the less it made sense. Why would the deity of mountains be able to heal people? Also, I've said before that I like the discrepancy between what valas can do and what people think valas can do. I think of healing as one of those things. Some people think that healing is a thing that every vala should be able to do, potentially because many have some aspect of it. But in fact, there are those that don't have that ability at all. I don't know if this will be used in the story as a source of conflict, but I like having the option. Now, I've talked about what valas can do, but I also want to touch on how, because that's pretty important. First, I want to mention where the magic comes from. Of course, it comes from the deity that has chosen this particular vala, and deities in this world are really very powerful spirits. They're spirits formed around a certain place, event, or phenomenon. This is important because the spirits did not create these things, but were created from them. So that means that the spirits don't own that power either. It's not in them, it's in the world. So the magic is already in the world. What the vala actually does is basically gather it up and focus it, in the same way as their deity was formed by these powers being gathered up and focused. I don't know if that makes sense, but the point is that the magic is all around and the valas can wield it within the limits of their deity's power. I've mentioned the staff that all valas receive when they're chosen by their deity. This staff is magical, of course, but it's not necessary for performing magic once it has accepted the vala. So as long as the staff doesn't glow, the vala needs to channel the magic through it, but once it does glow, she doesn't need to bother with the staff at all for magic purposes, although since they always have the staffs with them, there is a general misunderstanding that the magic does come from the staff. But the truth is, you don't have to use any tool at all to perform magic. It's possible to do it just by thinking, which is to say, by focusing on the magic and what you want it to do. But generally speaking, most valas find it easier to use a tool to help them focus, and usually that is their voices and or their hands or bodies. Now, this gets complicated. It's not something I go into detail on in the story, and because of that, I don't have all the details. Basically, when they perform certain magic, most valas need something to help them focus. It's commonly a chant, but can also be gestures or even a dance. The chants don't contain words, it's more about the rhythm and the feel of it, and they're not standardized. Basically, each vala can decide on their own what the chant will be based on what feels right to them. This idea comes from my absently humming on stuff when I'm trying to focus. The gestures are similar. Some valas might simply find it easier to lift something with magic if they also raise their hand. The hand doesn't do anything, practically speaking, just helps them focus or visualize what they want the magic to do. So far so good, but then came the complication that I wanted the valas to be able to cooperate, perform magic together to make the spell stronger, for example. If there are no standardized chants or gestures, how are they able to coordinate their spells? Luckily, this is magic, so I simply added a bit of magical hand-wavery. So while the chants and gestures are not magic themselves, they do represent the magic that the vala is gathering from around them to use. So by attuning themselves to that magic being manipulated, one vala can jump into another vala's spell by performing the same chant or gesture, which they know how to do because the magic kind of tells them how to do it. The first vala who started creating the spell is the one in charge, but the others can add their power to hers and or suggest small variations to the spell by changing the gesture or chant slightly. It's the first vala that makes the call whether or not to make those changes. If the changes seem good, she'll adjust her chant or gesture to match. I don't know if that makes sense, and like I said, I don't have this down in detail because I won't go into detail on it in the book. For the sake of the story, I don't need more than the fact that they are chanting or making gestures, they can work together, and changing the chant has a chance of changing the effect of the spell. Of course, I could have made standardized spells instead, every vala learning a certain set of words or gestures that has a certain effect, but I just didn't like that idea. I did consider it, but when I tried it out in my head, it turned out kind of boring, and it didn't fit with the fact that there's no official education for valas. I needed it to be more instinctual. Apparently, I forgot to mention something pretty important here. Another reason why I didn't want there to be standardized spells is because each vala does have different powers, and the powers come from different deities. I don't see why two very different deities would be compelled to do exactly the same thing in exactly the same way. The valas working together still works because when one vala taps into another vala's spell, they're adding their assistance to that vala's magic and that vala's deity. Their own deity isn't necessarily involved. Now, back to the past. I also really like chanting as a concept. I think it can be really beautiful and impactful, and I know people won't hear what I write in the book, but I'm thinking that it can have a similar effect on people in the story hearing a really powerful chant. And honestly, I just think it's cool is a perfectly acceptable reason for any decision in your world building. I wanted chanting, so I adjusted the world building to make that make sense. Before I thought of the chanting, I hadn't considered where magic came from. I made it be something that just exists all around in the world because that makes it more logical in my mind that one vala can tap into the magic of another one and the chanting thing can work. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. If it doesn't, let me know below and I'll try to clarify. For the next video in this series, I think I'll do something plotting related instead of world building. This idea came to me in a dream, and I'd like to talk about how to turn dreams into story ideas. If that sounds interesting, you can subscribe and hit the bell to make sure you don't miss it. For now, YouTube thinks you should check this out, or you can try this. Either way, thank you for watching, be safe, I will see you next time.